get into our lesson. So like Yolanda said, today we are looking at multiplying and dividing fractions. And so let's just first break down what this means. So we're going to start with multiplying fractions just because it's a little bit easier than division. And then we'll do some division just now. So when we are multiplying fractions, essentially what we're asking for is a portion of a portion, essentially. So if we look at this example of 1/2 times 2/5, basically what I'm asking you for is 1/2 of the portion 2 out of 5. So if we look at our diagram here, there are my 2/5. I've got 2 blocks of the 5 blocks colored in, and I now want 1/2 of that. So I need to cut this picture in half, which is why we've got a line down there, and we only want to consider 1/2 of the shaded region. Now, because I've cut these blocks in half, what I need to be careful of is the fact that I now have 10 parts rather than 5 parts. And so we just need to be careful of that as we start to do our calculations. I'm only considering 2 of these shaded blocks. So that's why I've got 2. Whoopsie daisies, circled the wrong 2. That's why I've got 2 out of my total 10 blocks that I eventually had in the end. And so we are able to work out what 1/2 of the 2/5 is. Now, obviously, we don't want to be drawing pictures all the time in maths. We want to be able to do this quick and easy, obviously without a calculator, so we need to be able to show our working out, but we want to be able to do this much easier than having to draw pictures every time. And so this is now where we're going to start to talk about how do we multiply fractions. Whoops. So if we have a look at our first example here, as I'm saying that, I will quickly wait here in case anyone wants to screenshot that, and then we will have a look at our first example. So guys, remember to screenshot work as we go along, just so that when you are going back at your notes, or if you miss something, you have all of the information there for you and you know exactly what's going on, hopefully. Righty, I'm hoping you all have your screenshot. So let's have a look at our first example. So our first example said 4 times 3/7. Now, obviously, again, like Yolanda said, you can put this on your calculator and you can very easily get your answer. But what happens if you're told to do this without a calculator? Well, let's see what we need to do. Now, there's a couple different ways you can deal with multiplication, and I'll show you these different ways as we go along. But the first thing that we always want to do is make sure that our numbers that we're working with are in fraction form. And so what that means is that this 4, I want to write as a fraction 4/1. It means the same thing. I haven't changed the meaning of it. I've just written it in fraction form. So now I've got 4/1 times 3/7. Now the rule is when I multiply with fractions, I multiply the numerators together and I multiply the denominators together. That is how I multiply fractions. So here I'm going to have 4 times 3 in my numerator and 1 times 7 in my denominator. And from there I simplify. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 7 is 7. And so we've got our final answer here of 12/7. Now, what we always need to do is we always need to double check if we can simplify. There's a couple different ways again to do this, but I always ask myself, is there a number I can divide into both 12 and 7, so into both my numerator and denominator to make it simpler? In this case, there isn't. There's no number that divides into 12 and 7. And so that is my final answer. Now, some of you might want to write this as a mixed number. I don't really like mixed numbers, but that's also just a personal preference. So if you wrote this as a mixed number, this would be 1 and 5/7, which is absolutely fine. We generally avoid decimals where possible, just because decimals often mean that we are rounding off. And the second you start rounding off, your answer is no longer as accurate as it would be if you didn't round off. Oh, sorry guys. And so try, as far as possible, leave your answers in the simplest fraction form, either a mixed number or an improper fraction. Doesn't really matter. Alrighty, so I'm going to let you screenshot that. I saw some people didn't get the screenshot of the multiplication notes beforehand when I said take screenshots. So I'll quickly move back there in a second. But take your screenshots of this first example. And then I'll move up to the notes where you take a screenshot there. Right here, those notes, take your screenshots. Ibonga, there you go. You can take a screenshot here now. Alrighty. Let's have a look at a second example. So I'm going to get you to try this by yourselves, but what I want to just remind you of is that whenever we are multiplying with fractions, sorry, I was turning my video off instead of trying to select a pen, because apparently that's what I'm doing today. Whenever we are multiplying, we always want to multiply the numerators together and multiply the denominators together. So step one would be multiply your numerators. If you need steps, some people like steps to follow. Then you multiply your denominators. And then we always double check if we can simplify our fraction. Right, so I want you guys to try question B by yourselves. As soon as you have an answer, remember, you can put it in the chat. I don't want any hands yet. So let's first try this by ourselves. And then in a second or two, I will ask for some hands. But again, use the chat to put your answers in. Right, and if you can follow those 3 steps, you should be okay. Right, and remember guys, like Yolanda said, try and do these examples without a calculator. Firstly, it just tests your basic maths and it gets you practice with basic maths. And generally speaking, when we ask you to do these sorts of questions, we're going to say without a calculator. So it's good to get into the habit now of doing it without a calculator. Remember to always simplify your answers. Always make sure you've simplified. Nice, guys. Keep those answers coming through. Liking that we're simplifying our answers, double checking that we can simplify. Alrighty, grade 8s. If anyone would like to raise their hand to explain how they did this, now is the time to do so. If you want to raise your hand to tell me the answer, you can do that. Ortile?
So what I did to answer the question, I said 2 times 1.
Yeah.
And then I got 2 because if times 2 by 1 is 2. And then I said 5 times 8 or 8 times 5. I got 40. And then I simplified it by dividing the 2. And I got 1/20.
Perfect, exactly. So guys, very importantly there, that answer of 2/20 is not our final answer. As Ortile said, we have to simplify. So I can divide the 2 in the numerator by 2 and the 40 by 2, and I get my final simplified answer of 1/20. and you must simplify. If you leave 2/40 as your final answer, it is wrong. It is not fully simplified. So you always want to fully simplify the fraction that you get. Right, just to show you another way that you could potentially do this, I personally prefer this way, but it's also completely up to you. Sorry, clearly having a day. I'm sneezing, I'm yawning. Oh, sorry guys. Alrighty, so another way that we can deal with this is we can use cross-canceling. Now, like I said, I personally prefer this method. I don't know how you spell canceling. So I'm just going to pretend that's how you spell canceling. It might be a double L, but it doesn't matter. And this is where we can cancel something in our numerator, so something in the top, with something in our denominator, so something in the bottom. So if we have a look here, we've got the fraction 2/5 times 1/8. When looking at this, I can see that I can divide 2 into 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, and I could divide 2 into 8, and that gives me 4. And so what I'm doing here is I am dividing both numbers at the top and the bottom, yes, by the same value. Sorry, I've clearly panicked here. And this is what I mean when I say cancel top with bottom. Once I've done that, I write down my simplified fractions that I have. So 1/5 now, because I canceled the 2, times 1/4, because I simplified the 8. And now I multiply as normal. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 5 times 4 is 20. I get exactly the same answer. So whichever method you choose to do, it really doesn't matter. You have to decide what's working for you. Alrighty. So whatever you decide is the easiest method for you, that's what you do. Cross-canceling is quite nice, especially when we start working with quite big numbers in our fractions. It makes it a little bit easier, but you don't have to do it. You can just normally multiply and then simplify in your final step. So I'm just going to wait here in case anyone wants to take a screenshot before we move on to our next example, which you're going to try. Remember, guys, take your screenshots that you've got this information. Alrighty. So let's have a look at a third one in terms of multiplying fractions and see how we do. So here's question C. Now again, I'm going to let you try, but let's just make sure we all understand what's going on here. Sorry, my screen just went small. So what we have here is 1/3 times 2/5 times 4. Now remember, guys, I said to you, always try and write everything as a fraction. So a third. So 1/3 times 2/5 times 4/1. And remember, again, the rule with multiplication is nice and easy. You just multiply everything in your numerator with everything in your denominator. So it doesn't matter that we've got 3 fractions. We can just multiply. If you want to do it step by step and multiply the first 2, get your answer, and then take the answer and multiply it by the second one, that's absolutely fine. Right, so give this question C a try. Pop your answers in the chat. Make sure you're simplifying. Make sure you're correctly multiplying, and then we'll have a look. Okay, but remember, guys, if you need to do it step by step, so first multiply the first 2, then the last one, that is fine. Don't rush it. Rather do it properly. And remember, whenever we have a value that isn't a fraction, we always write it as a fraction. So that is why 4 becomes 4/1. Liking what I'm seeing so far. Guys, this is such a silly thing, but the fraction sign, if I know you're typing it on a laptop, so I completely understand. But a fraction sign goes this way. That way is not a fraction. So this is the correct way that your line should go. If you're on a laptop, it is with the question mark. So I think you just push that button. You don't have to hold shift. Alrighty. So anyone want to raise their hand to tell me how we English, how we did? Watobe, do you want to help me out here?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I said that 1 times 2 times 4 over 3 times 5 times 1, and it gave me 8 over 15.
Perfect. Okay, so guys, exactly that. We can multiply everything all in one step. You don't have to. If you want to do it step by step, that's cool. But everything all in one go is absolutely fine. Now, like what Lale said, 1 times 2 times 4. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 5 in my denominator is 15. Times 1 is 15. Now we always double check if we can multiply, if we can simplify. In this case, we can't simplify, so our answer stays exactly like that. Again, don't write it as a decimal. The second you start using decimals, things become inaccurate. So rather just leave it. Right, guys, what I want to point out to you here as well is that we couldn't cross cancel in this case because there is nothing I can cancel in the top with the bottom. My only numbers in the top are 2 and 4, obviously 1 as well, but 1 doesn't really do anything. And in my denominator, 3 and 5. I can't cancel anything at the top with anything at the bottom. So in this question, cross multiplication would not be, my brain, my words, cross canceling would not be possible here. All right, so I'm going to wait here in case anyone wants to take a screenshot. I'm also going to say if you have any questions or anything like that, now is the time to raise your hand so that I can help answer any questions that you might have. So if you do have questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you guys are taking screenshots. And guys, please do ask if you're struggling. Fractions is such an important section in maths and eventually in algebra. So make sure that you're sorting out any questions that you have. Nati, question? There should be a pop-up to unmute yourself. There we go.
So, ma'am, I came late, so do we do it?
Okay, so I'm not re-explaining. Remember, if you came late, guys, we completely understand, but everything is recorded. So you can go and watch the recording, but we are going to do more examples. So hopefully it'll make sense as we do more examples. Okay.
Okay.
Dial, question?
Ma'am, can you explain how you got to two over 5 and 4 over 1?
Okay, so the 2 over 5 came from the original question. That was the original fraction that I had. So it's just me writing it down again. The 4 over 1 came from this 4 at the end here. Now, because that's a whole number, I always try to write it as a fraction so that when I eventually start multiplying, I have numbers in the numerator and I have numbers in the denominator. So the 4 over 1 just came from the 4 and the 2 over 5 was part of the question.
Okay, I see now. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Alrighty, guys, well done. Right, let's do one more before we take a break because you guys are on a roll. So question D, I'm not going to help you too much. The only thing I am going to say is convert this to an improper fraction first. So first convert this to an improper fraction and then do your multiplication. So that's all of the help I'm going to give. Give it a try. Remember, if you are struggling, ask questions in the chat. Like Yolanda and I have both said, you need to be specific in your questions. We can't help you if you just say you don't understand or it doesn't make sense. Tell us exactly what's troubling you so we can help you. But my hint here is start with converting to an improper fraction, and then you can go ahead and do your multiplication. And remember, guys, we always want to simplify our answer. So once you have an answer, please double check that you are simplifying the answer that you give me. Remember, I don't want any hands just yet. If you have questions, put them in the chat. And I will let you know when I want some hands. There we go. If you want, no, I will let you know when I'm ready for hands. Okay, so Tingle, remember, we always want to try simplify. So just double check if you can simplify your answer. People are shouting outside my window. Don't know why.
At least we cannot hear it on our side.
Good. My gosh.
It's go, my people. Y'all have this.
Remember, guys, just go at your pace. Make sure you're doing everything correctly. Make sure that you are multiplying correctly. Make sure you are simplifying as you go along. Remember, try and do this without a calculator. We want to be able to do these sorts of questions without calculus, without calculators and showing all of our working out. Yes, my brain, clearly, it needs a nap. Okay, guys, you also shouldn't be getting decimals within your fractions. Right, so I'm seeing, oh, English. Okay, guys, we're just gonna have to pretend that I can speak tonight because clearly I can't. So I'm seeing some nice answers, but I'm not seeing a lot of simplification. Thanks, Star. Yeah, it is Monday, and clearly Monday is not my day today. So we're gonna do this together. Please mark your work as we go along, because that's the point of you writing it down so that you can double check. And I'm going to show you the two ways. So either if you cross cancel or if you multiply and then simplify. So firstly, to convert to an improper fraction, remember we times the denominator with a whole number. So we say 2 times 3, which is 6. And then we add the numerator. So that's 7 over 2 times 5 over 14. From this point, we now do our multiplication. So we say 7 times 5 and 2 times 14. 7 times 5 is 35. 2 times 14 is 28. Now, both of those numbers can be divided by 7, and we always want to simplify. So I'm going to divide both of those values by 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. So I've simplified my answer. And so a lot of you are getting 35 over 28, which is awesome. Just remember to do the extra step and simplify. Alrighty, that's option 1. Option 2 is to do your cross cancelling. So once you've got your improper fraction of 7 over 2 times your 5 over 14, you can start to cross cancel. So we know that 7 divides into 7 once and into 14 twice. And now you've got a much simpler fraction that you can multiply. So our first fraction is simplified to 1 over 2, and our second fraction 5 over 2. And so now when we go and multiply those fractions, I've got 1 times 5 and 2 times 2. Now we know that 1 times 5 is 5 and 2 times 2 is 4. So you get exactly the same answer. It really doesn't matter how you choose to do it. You must do what you're more comfortable with. So if you're cross cancelling, that's the blue sort of working out. If you're multiplying and then simplifying, that is the gray working out. But either way, you get 5 over 4. So guys, just to recap, for those of you who are still a little bit confused, so listen up. First step is to convert your improper fraction. And we do that by saying the denominator times the whole number. So 2 times 3, which is 6, plus the numerator, which is 1, giving us 7 over 2. Then we go and multiply. So in this case, I'm multiplying 7 times 5 and 14 times 2, or 2 times 14. 7 times 5 gives me 35. 2 times 14 gives me 28. And I always have to check if I can simplify, because if I can simplify, I must. In this case, both 35 and 28 could be divided by 7. So I simplified to 5 over 4. Right, so if you need, you could put in an extra step between step number 1 and step number 2. Let's just fix all of that nonsense. Where you could say in between here, 7 times 5 in your numerator and 2 times 14 in your denominator. And then you get your answer of 35 over 28. All right, so I'll just wait here in case anyone wants to take a screenshot. If anyone has questions, raise your hand now. Now is the time to do that. And then we're going to take a little brain break. It's a different brain break today. I switched it up. Alrighty. I'm hoping we have those screenshots. I'm not coming back, so make sure you do. Right. Brain break for the day. So if you are new, brain break is basically just us taking a little break from the lesson that we're doing. It's generally like a fun game or something a bit like problem solving or something that you have to think a little bit about, but it's all maths related. Well, mostly it's maths related. Our brain breaks so far have all been maths related, so it all has a purpose. For our brain break today, I'm just going to read through it so that we all know what it's saying to us. So it says, the star shown in the picture is made by fitting together 12 congruent equilateral triangles. Now that is a lot of words. Basically, what this means is we have got 12 identical, congruent means identical, equilateral triangles. Now we know that an equilateral triangle is a triangle where all 3 sides are the same length. Now that's quite important, right? So 12 congruent or identical equilateral triangles. I've then gone on to tell you that the perimeter of the star is 36 centimeters. So if we go and follow along this green outline, remember that's perimeter. This green outline, this perimeter of the star, has a length of 36 centimeters. My question to you tonight is what is the perimeter of the gray hexagon. So the gray hexagon is what I'm now outlining. That's not a great color to have chosen. Let's pick another color. Let's do like a bright pink, maybe that'll work. Is this shape in the middle. So what is the outside length? I've done in pink there. So have a think. The important bit there is what I've highlighted in yellow. So that the fact that they are congruent equilateral triangles, that is quite an important point as your hint. Pop some answers in the chat if and when you have, and let's see what we get. Oh. Remember, 36 is the perimeter in green. So 36 is the perimeter of the star. I want the perimeter of the hexagon in the middle.
You can do this, my people. Let's go. You can do it, guys. Yeah, this one is a little bit difficult, my people. So don't worry.
Guys, don't stress. Every now and then I'd like to throw in something a little bit more challenging. We can't have it easy all the time, but we have to think about these things.
Yep. Even my brain is thinking, people, so you're not alone.
Okay, guys, I'll give you another little hint. Because they're all equilateral triangles, what that means is that all of these lengths are exactly the same. So you're adding the same thing however many times to get 36. So that's my clue to you.
So
It
now
also-
I answer. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Let's go, my people. I'm saying that now they can actually find out an answer. That's a perfect clue.
And then remember, guys, what it also means is that because they're equilateral triangles, technically it means that all of these sides here on the hexagon are the same length as the sides of the triangle because they're equilateral triangles. It's starting to look like a snowflake. Okay, it's not 36. I will tell you that much. Because 36 is the star. I'm going to give you another minute and then we'll have a look. I'm glad we're all trying though. We're saying well done. That answer came so quickly. We're saying, do you want to tell us how you got 18? If you want to raise your hand, you can. Oh, I'm not seeing a hand. Samu, I see you got 18 as well. Do you want to tell us how you got 18? Raise your hand if you do. Oh, I hope we're not copying answers, guys. All right, let's see how we got this. So we have got the green outline is 36. Now I'm adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the same length to get 36. So if I'm adding 12 of the same length to get 36, that means I could say 36 divided by 12 to get what one side of my triangle is, and that would be 3 centimeters. So every side here on every one of my equilateral triangles is 3 centimeters. Now that's very helpful to me because now I know that this is 3, and the pink lengths are 3. Now, if I add up how many pink lengths I have, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 6 pink lengths each of them are 3 centimeters, so I can times that by 3, and I get that the perimeter of my hexagon is 18 centimeters. Right, so that's why I said to you, the fact that they are identical triangles and the fact that they are equilateral triangles, very, very important. That helped us go and find the side lengths of my triangles. Righty, I hope that makes sense. Remember, guys, this is a brain break. It's nothing that you have to take too seriously. These are the types of questions, and this is why I sometimes throw them in. These are the types of questions that teachers often like to put in tests, like that last like problem solving sort of question. And we sometimes look at them and we get a bit freaked out and we don't know how to do them. But hopefully by you seeing them here, you'll be able to look at these questions and say, okay, I've seen something like this before. I can actually do it. All right, so this is just me trying to help you tackle those sort of level 4 problem solving questions. And it's just, you need to think a little bit outside of the box when you get these sorts of questions. Right, but very nicely done. I'm glad we're all seeing it. We're all making sense of it. But let's have a look at some division of fractions now. Okay, so there's a whole long bit of information here, but basically, when we are dividing values, so you can be dividing anything. We don't even have to talk about fractions. Let's say, for example, I said 12 divided by 4. What I'm actually asking is how many times or how many 4s are there that make up 12? And that is what division is. So if, for example, I said to you 3 divided by a quarter, I'm asking you how many quarters are there in 3 wholes? Now, when I'm doing that, we know that we've got 3 wholes, each divided up into 4 quarters, which means in total, I have got 12 quarters making up 3 wholes. And that is all division is. Now, once again, we don't want to have to draw pictures and we don't want to have to do all this complicated, diagrammatic stuff. We just want a way to be able to do this so that we get the right answer. And so what we need to take note of is what I've got in the block here. What we do is we change the division to a multiplication and we flip the second fraction. So we flip the fraction that came after the division sign. Now, some of you would have learned this as tip and times. Some people have done, I can't remember if it was this class or the grade 9s. Some people have learned a slightly different little rhyme called KFC. I'm going to show you both. You can pick which one you want. But basically, we change the division to a multiplication and we flip the second fraction. Now, guys, importantly, when you are multiplying and dividing, so it says when we divide fractions here, but it's also when you multiply fractions. You never need an LCD. You only need an LCD when you are adding or subtracting fractions. So that's just something important to remember there. But let's have a look and see how we do this. So I'm going to wait like 3 seconds in case you want to take a screenshot of these notes. And then we're going to have a look at an example. Alrighty, so let's have a look. In our first example, we've got 1/5 divided by 3/10. So like I say, there's 2 ways to think of this. Either tip and times or KFC. So tip and times basically means tip the second fraction. So we've got to flip that and change the division to a multiplication. So this would become 1/5 times, and now we flip this fraction, 10/3. If you don't really like tip and times, that's cool. Another way to remember this is KFC. So K stands for keep the first fraction. So keep it exactly as it is. We don't do anything to it. F stands for flip the second fraction. And C stands for change the division to multiplication. So KFC, keep the first, flip the second, change division to multiplication. Now, the reason we do this is because if we think about what this is saying to us, if we wrote this down without the division sign, this is saying a fifth divided by 3/10. It's becoming so complicated. So what we want to try and do is we want to try and make our lives easier. And to do that, if we can change to a multiplication sign, because we've done all of those examples beforehand, we know how to do that. All right, so once we've done that, we've got a nice multiplication that we know how to do. And so all we need to do here is we need to times the numerators together, times the denominators together. And Tingle's put a good answer there on the chat. 1 times 10 is 10, and 5 times 3 is 15. So we get 10 over 15. Now, guys, you always need to check if you can simplify. In this case, both of these numbers, so the 10 and the 15, can both be divided by 5. So we have to simplify them. And so we end up with an answer of 2 over 3. We have to simplify our fractions if they can be simplified. Righty, so when dividing with fractions, we want to tip and times, or we want to apply KFC. It doesn't matter which one you choose to do. So those people who are saying they don't understand, I'm re-explaining, you need to listen. So when dividing fractions, we tip and times. That means that the multiplication sign must change into, the division sign must change into a multiplication sign. And the second fraction, only the second fraction, so only the fraction after the division sign, that fraction must flip. We must swap the numerator and denominator around in order to multiply accurately. Alrighty, so that is how we divide with fractions. We tip and we times. So take your screenshots quickly. And then I want to do one more, but I'm going to do it with you just because I don't think we've got time to wait, but I'm going to do it with you so that at least you can see how we deal with these through 2 examples.
Yeah, people, with all its color, it looks so nice. You definitely can understand it later. Sometimes when you get the information, it might block you a little bit. So just rewatch it, or if you have taken some screenshots, when you look at it again, it will make sense sometimes. Sometimes it's what we need, right? So you guys are doing really well. I'm proud of you.
Okay, guys, I hope you got those screenshots. Let's have a look at B quickly. If you didn't get a screenshot, I'll make it smaller in a second. So remember, whenever we've got a number that isn't as a fraction, the first thing we do is just put it as a fraction. So this whole number 4, I'm going to write as 4 over 1. Now that's helpful to me because I know I have to flip the second one. So now I know exactly what my fraction is going to be when I flip it. So we keep the first fraction. So 2 over 7 stays 2 over 7. We change the division to multiplication. And then we flip the second fraction. So it becomes 1 over 4. It was 4 over 1. We flip it and it becomes 1 over 4. Now we know how to deal with this. We multiply the numerators together and we multiply the denominators together. So we've got 2 times 1 over 7 times 4. 2 times 1 we know is 2. 7 times 4 we know is 28. And we don't stop there. We always check if we can simplify. I've run out of space. Both of these numbers I can divide by 2. So I need to simplify this fraction to give me 1 over 14. And that's so important, guys. You always simplify your answers. Right, so what I'm going to do is, just in case you want a screenshot of everything there are your 2 examples. Please take your screenshot